Hi everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you're all doing well wherever you are. We are so excited to have you in another episode of the MBA Spotlight by the GMAT Club. And over the next 3 weeks, we're going to have sessions by the top 20 business schools by admissions consultants. We're going to be joined by some of the current students as well. Walk you through the entire MBA application process as well as the business school life. And jumping to today's session, we have been joined by Amanda and Anna from the Columbia Business School. And we'll quickly get started with the introductions. Amanda, Anna, over to you.
Okay, I'll start. Thank you so much, Vaibhav. Nice to be here. Thank you so much to the wonderful folks at the GMAT Club for hosting us once again this year. Thank you to everybody joining from all over, again, morning, afternoon, and evening. Hopefully we'll be able to share a little bit of good information with you today so that you can determine whether or not Columbia Business School will be a good fit for you for your graduate education going forward. So my name is Amanda Carlson. I am a very proud member of Columbia's admissions team. I am also a graduate of the class of 2013 from our executive MBA Global Asia class, which is a partner program that Columbia Business School has with the University of Hong Kong and London Business School. And I think probably more important, I am joined by one of our wonderful recent grads, Anna, who also just got back from an amazing trip to Peru, which I saw great pictures of. And so, Anna, I'm going to turn it over to you to introduce yourself, and then we'll get going on a brief presentation.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Faiba, for the invite. I'm a big fan of GMAT Club. I used it heavily in my application, so super thrilled to be here. Thank you, Amanda, for the invite as well. I'll try to answer all of your Columbia questions, and I see a lot of them coming already, which is great. I graduated recently, class of 2021. I've got so many great things to say about the university, so you need to interrupt me because I've got too much to share.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you, Amanda. Thank you. And then before we move on to the presentation, just a few pointers for our audience. Please feel free to put in all questions in the chat section, and we'd be taking them after the presentation, definitely. And please don't forget that you have to stay till the end of the session because we do have a few prizes to be given away at the end of the session. So all the best for that. And over to you again, Amanda and Anna, for the presentation.
Okay, so I'm going to do my best as someone who's somewhat technologically challenged to share my screen and open up our presentation. So hopefully you will have the opportunity to see this. Anna, can you just verbally tell me whether or not you can see it, since I can't see anything else other than the PowerPoint?
Yep, I can see it.
Okay.
Maybe just press presentation mode at the bottom right side.
I have it in presentation mode, and that's what I can see, but can you see it or no?
I can see the presentation. I just can see the small slides on the left, but it's perfectly fine. We can see all of the content.
Okay, perfect, because I've got it in presentation mode on mine, but all right. So we'll just move along. So for those of you who may not know, the official name on Columbia's school charter is Columbia University in the city of New York. And I think obviously the relevance that has right now, you could see in this beautiful picture, is you could see where Columbia is situated up in Morningside Heights relative to the bright lights of Midtown Manhattan. And I will tell you, one of the most special things that I feel, having been here for nearly 20 years now, is Columbia Morningside Heights is this amazing eclectic neighborhood where it's like your family up here. We're actually, so Anna, where Anna lives, where my office is right now, we're right across the street from each other. Below our office is Tom's Restaurant, otherwise known for some of you, if you've ever watched Seinfeld, as the Seinfeld Diner. You walk in there, the amazing people, first of all, amazing food, you should go eat. at Tom's Restaurant when you come to Columbia. But, people know your name here. It is a wonderful, amazing, small neighborhood feel, again, within the larger New York City. So I think it's a really special place. And once things do open up, I hope you will have the opportunity to come visit us on campus. All right. So the one thing I want to make sure to mention right now as we start the program is that we have one Columbia Business School MBA. There are a variety of ways to earn this MBA, but again, when you graduate from any of Columbia Business School's programs, you will earn the exact same MBA. So we do have 3 different intakes, if you will, or applications where you can apply to earn the full-time MBA at Columbia. One is the August intake, the second is the January intake, and the third is the deferred enrollment program. For the August intake, this is the 2-year traditional MBA with the summer internship component between the 2 years of study. We'll generally bring in about 570 students into the August intake. The January intake is a different intake, but would have the same graduating class. So the January intake, or J-term, is a 16-month accelerated program for which there is no formal summer internship. So one would be going through the J-term for 4 consecutive terms, again in 16 months, and graduating with that August intake that would have started about 4 or 5 months right before. The deferred enrollment program is a program whereby folks who are graduating from undergraduate programs or who have gone directly into master's programs can apply to matriculate at Columbia in a full-time MBA, but do so in a deferred fashion. So meaning that once one is admitted into the full-time program through the deferred enrollment offering, you can actually decide that you want to enroll 2, 3, 4, or 5 years down the road into either the August intake or the January intake. All right. So those are 3 different ways to apply to the full-time Columbia MBA. For those of you who may be working and are thinking about continuing to work while pursuing an MBA, we do have a number of executive MBA options, including the New York-based Friday, Saturday start, which is for 5 consecutive semesters, and you would be going to school every other weekend, roughly, all day Friday, all day Saturday. And then we have an EMBA Saturday program for which folks would go to school for 6 consecutive semesters, and basically you go every single Saturday. Again, it's a long haul, but for those who may not be able to take time away from work, again, it's a great way to earn a Columbia MBA. We also have 2 different executive MBA global programs. One is the Americas and Europe program. The other is the EMBA Global Asia program. These are partner programs that we have with both London Business School and then London Business School and the University of Hong Kong. These programs are offered in a block week format, meaning that one would go to school 4 or 5 consecutive days, 1 time per month. And so you would be taking classes in all of the different locations, New York, London, as well as in Hong Kong. I just want to point out a nice visual, I think, that helps people to understand the difference in terms of timing between the August intake as well as the January intake. So for the August entry, you would be going through your first 2 semesters, August through December, in your fall term, whereby you would be taking core classes. And then in your second term, you would be taking core plus elective classes. During that break between your spring semester and your second fall semester, you would pursue a summer internship. And we'll talk a little bit about summer internships later on as we address the career management resources. Likewise, if one were to start in the January intake, you actually start with your first term of study in the spring.
Amanda, sorry to interrupt you, but I assume you're moving from slides, right?
I am.
Okay, now we can see it. Up until now, we were not able to.
Okay. Thank you very much. So you can see this now?
Yep.
Okay.
Good.
So in the second term, again, you'd be taking the core and the electives when your classmates who started in the August intake were pursuing their summer internships. When you all get to the fall start of your second year of study, the larger graduating class will have about 750, 800 students in it, and you will be taking all of your electives together. And so Anna, thank you so much for, I'm going to stop sharing just for the moment right now, and wanted to see whether or not you might be kind enough to talk a little bit about, one, what your core experience was like, and share maybe a little bit about the cluster system as well as learning teams?
Yeah, sure. So at Columbia, we have a cluster system. Essentially, every cluster is around 70 people that share wide variety of experiences. They come from different countries. And the good thing about the cluster system is that for people who are like me, I come from Greece. I've never lived in New York before, and I didn't have any kind of support system in the city. The clusters gave me the opportunity to have a group of people that I can bond with very quickly. During the orientation week, we spent a lot of time with our cluster, and this acts as your support network throughout the Columbia experience. And yeah, I mean, the cluster has been very useful in many ways throughout the 2 years. And the subsection of the cluster is our learning team. Our learning team is 5 or 6 people, and essentially they together do they go through the core. We go through the core classes of the first semester. In the Columbia curriculum, essentially we have I think there are 6 or 7 core classes in the first semester, and everybody has to go through those classes unless you take an exemption exam and you, for example, you don't take accounting because you were an accounting major in undergrad or whatnot. After the core, we spent 3 semesters taking different electives based on what we want to do after school. I think this system works very well because everybody needs a basic understanding of accounting, finance, marketing, statistics, and whatnot. So the core brings everybody to the same level of understanding for the basic subjects. And then after that, everybody is free to do whatever they want. And there is a wide variety of electives as well.
Okay, super helpful. Thank you. Anna, one of the things that I'm curious about, did you exempt out of any of the core classes or no?
No, I could have exempted from a couple of them because my undergrad was in accounting and finance. So I could have exempted from, finance, maybe accounting, even statistics, to be honest. But I chose not to because the value of taking some core classes together has also social implications, right? So you bond better with your cluster, you spend time with your learning team. If you were not taught in English, I did undergrad in Greek, I thought that this will be a smoother entry into, a curriculum full that is completely in the English language. And on top of that, if I exempted from the core, I would need to take some electives early on. And because, as the first semester, we have the prep for recruiting, networking, all of this like mentoring that we receive. I wanted to have like an easier time when it comes to academics, and, being taught subjects that I kind of had a background on was easy for me. But this is a very personal decision, and plenty of classmates have exempted from like 1 or 1.5, meaning half semester classes as well.
Right. Thank you. All right. I'm going to go back and try to share the slides again. I know that you said that you couldn't see the not in presentation mode. I'm going to try one more time. We will see what I can do here. Okay, I'm putting it back into presentation mode. Again, I don't know. Can you verbally tell me that's what you see or not?
We're good. We can see
okay.
We can see all the slides.
All right. Okay. So I think something that's really special about being at Columbia is, again, that our home in New York City really, it permeates everything about your experience at the school, not the least of which is kind of the intellectual capital that resides in the city is something that has a great impact on your experience at Columbia. And what do I mean by this? So we have about 300 faculty in total, half of whom are full-time tenure track faculty members. There are 14 different academic areas of study that range from finance to healthcare to real estate to entrepreneurship to social enterprise, etc. And so you have a lot of choice and flexibility in terms of the classes that you can take. And again, the faculty from whom you will learn, especially once you get through to the elective portions of your curriculum. Again, talking about that intellectual capital, we have, again, roughly about half of our faculty are practitioner faculty who spend their time working in industry during the day, and then obviously take that wonderful time to teach our students some of the elective level classes. So John Moon, who's at Morgan Stanley, teaches advanced corporate finance. Ketty May-Jean Rouge teaches the luxury approach. There's classes on Intro to Python. Jonathan Nee, who's a senior banker at Evercore, is one of the co-heads of the media and entertainment space here at Columbia. So there are, again, so many ways that you will have that access, again, to the richness of diversity in terms of the talent and the practitioner faculty who are in New York City. And so, Anna, I wonder if you might be able to share a little bit about, in terms of whether it's the core classes or in terms of the elective classes, who were some of your faculty and what were their backgrounds? I think, and in particular, what I'd love to hear, and I think perhaps our prospective students would love to hear about, is how that real-time experience lended itself to your classroom experience.
Sure. I mean, in the second slide you shared, I saw Jonathan Nee, Professor Jonathan Nee, who teaches the M&A in media class. I TA'd for him. I took a bunch of his classes. I TA'd this class as well. I think it was the best class I've taken at Columbia. All of the speakers were CEOs or high-level executives in some very big companies, because he's a profession of practice, I believe, at Columbia, meaning that he has a career, 20 years as an investment banker partner at Evercore, I believe. So, all of the speakers in the class, they come from deals that he has actually worked on. So it was extremely fascinating for me. I've done, I believe, a good job choosing electives that I really liked. Apart from the classes around M&A in media, I really enjoyed leader's voice and managerial negotiations, as well as some of the philanthropy classes I've taken. I think that there is a very big variety of classes, and we do our best to balance soft skill and hard skill classes, as well as interactions with professors that are full-time academics, as well as practitioners in the field. Some of my best experiences came with classes that were very interactive. So you actually do learn from your classmates as well. Managerial negotiations was one of them. And I just want to say that this is maybe not something that prospective applicants or students should worry a lot about, because once you come at Columbia, after the first semester of the core classes, there is a lot of guidance and a lot of peer reviews when it comes to electives. So the school helps you navigate all the offerings so that you choose classes that actually match your educational needs.
It's so interesting that you should say, again, because that you still continue to have so many guest speakers join your class, because as we were in this high flex environment, I wonder if you could share a little bit about how that happened. And again, thankfully, we are planning that we're going to be fully in person this fall. So hopefully this will not be the type of learning environment that we have again. But I think that Columbia navigated under the leadership of Dean McGlaris and Dean Rockoff, just this amazing ability to still continue to bring in high level, again, resources, faculty, and guest speakers. So can you share a little bit about how that was accomplished?
Yeah, I mean, I know that the incoming class, as well as the class of 2022, are going to be in person the next year. I personally didn't mind taking some of my classes remotely as well. In my last semester, we had the option to be in person or remote, or even both at the same time with the high flex model, and I think it worked perfectly fine. It worked even better when it comes to guest speakers, because sometimes in order to get the most senior people, having them online saves everybody so much time, and it's harder to decline an invitation in an online session of a class than in an in-person session. And I believe it was Professor Nee that shared that for the M&A class, the last semester, we had the best cohort of speakers in the history of the class. Everybody was extremely senior. And sometimes it was easier to host panel discussions as well, because you had like 3 senior people in the same 1-hour class instead of 1 speaker.
Yeah, it was so interesting because I feel like also as an alum, one of the things that we would receive each week would be from the Office of External Relations and Development, this list of, oh my goodness, here are all of these different guest speakers that the students are going to have. And so even being an alum, we were still invited to to participate, even though, again, we weren't necessarily students, but I think that virtual component also opened up even more access. And I love your point about, it's harder for folks to be able to say no, and especially when things are virtual. And it was so nice to be able to see so many of our international alumni being able to join class or to join a speaker series for 20 minutes, if you will, rather than having to fly Frank Tang from Hong Kong, 16 hours one way, spend the night, come guest lecture, see the students, and then turn around and fly 16 hours. It was much easier to have people just kind of join remotely. So I think that, that's one of, in some ways, the blessings. And I think we'll be able to continue along that trajectory, even though, again, we will have the benefit of being in person with each other going forward. So I love that point, and hearing especially that Professor Nee said it was the best roster of faculty or speakers he'd ever had in the class.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you're going to touch upon this even later, but it's also relevant for the speakers that come outside of the context of classes, right? We've got all these guest speakers that, they just come in through various programs at the school. For example, a good friend of mine moderated the discussion with the Netflix CEO. As you know, it took place last year. I'm going to join MasterCard, and I got the opportunity to moderate the discussion with Ajay Banka, the MasterCard CEO. So all of those things, they're a bit easier to plan when you have the opportunity to do it remote. But again, we're looking forward to in person as well. All is good.
Return for happy hour.
It's for the food. We do it for the food.
Good. Okay. So I think, to your point also about, I'm just going to leave this slide up so that people can see really kind of what the core classes are, and the breadth, as Anna, you had mentioned earlier, of the different classes that you'll take in the first term. And again, seeing what that second term looks like and overall how the curriculum flows. I think, you were making a really good point about that the access that you receive because of our home in New York City really is just something that is so beneficial. And so, again, what I hope these few slides will show is, again, that kind of breadth of industry, breadth of function of different companies, again, to which you will have access not only for guest speakers, but also potentially for school year internships and so on. And so this is just a short list of some of the folks who were able to join virtually this year. I know that I had the benefit of hearing from Henry Kravis, head of KKR, Shazi Visram, who is this wonderful young alum who created a company called Happy Baby. So again, the really interesting part is, again, the breadth of diversity of industry and ideas and thoughts that so many of the alums and guest speakers will be bringing for you. Another great part of being at Columbia has to do with the different clubs that you'll have the opportunity to join. Again, it'll be, I think, even more meaningful this year being back in person together, potentially study trips, and then conferences that the students put on. We have a variety of clubs, student clubs, that our students run, and they range in nature from being professional to social and affinity, and then with partnership with the Chazen Institute, which is really kind of the hub of everything international. The students also partner to help run global study tours. And again, we're hoping that those will return to fruition again this year. But as far as the professional clubs go, I think these are terrific ways for folks to be able to dip a toe in. If you are looking to make a transition into a new industry of interest. So whether it's healthcare, you would think about joining the Healthcare Industry Association, or if you're looking at retail and luxury goods, join the Retail and Luxury Goods Club, Social Enterprise Club. And then as part of that professional network, you would also potentially have the opportunity to volunteer and raise your hand to help put together a conference. And so that too lends itself so favorably for you to be able to create connections with and network with some professionals, especially in the New York area, where at companies for which you might want to work after graduation. And so reaching out to them to say, hey, we're running this particular conference. Could you please come sit on X, Y, or Z panel? That's a really nice way in a safe environment to reach out to someone and to be able to establish a connection. So Anna, I'm wondering if you may be able to share a little bit in terms of professional clubs and social clubs in which you had the opportunity to participate in both your first and or second year. Could you share a little bit about what you did and what meaning that club affiliation held for you?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I personally was recruiting for tech and fintech. So, in terms of professional clubs, those are the ones that I targeted, as well as some that were more because of personal interest, like for example, media. I was in the board members for the clubs that I joined, and that was useful because you get to know better your classmates. You have an excuse to reach out to people because, I mean, everybody's a student, and that already is very helpful when it comes to reaching out. But when you're in a board of a club, when it comes to organizing a conference or a visit or anything really, it's so much easier to have a reason to talk to people on LinkedIn or to alums or whatnot. I found clubs to be very useful because apart from the in-person gatherings and whatnot, even when we were in person, also when we were remote, we have the club Slack channel. So it's a great way to disseminate information and find out about in-semester internships, which I also did, events that are happening in New York, positions that need to be filled, because people just need to share the information somewhere. And this actually works very well. I remember even when I was interning at MasterCard, a Colombia alum who was with the company, just random example, but her husband was running a VC in New York and he needed interns. So she was asking me to connect her with the board of the VC club so that we can post the internship position over there as well. So they are very useful and they do a good job at bringing you up to speed with what is going on in the industry and in the city of New York.
That's helpful. And you mentioned internship. Did you happen to do a school year internship or not? Can you share a little bit about, one, what that experience was like, and then two, how that may or may not have parlayed into your full-time opportunity?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I worked through the second year of school. I did an in-semester internship. So, this was like 15 hours a week, something like that. I joke around. Before school, I did consulting. I worked at McKinsey, and I like to say that consulting ruins you because you cannot stop working, really. So when I went through the core and I did my recruiting for my summer internship with full-time position, I felt too guilty to just, enjoy everything that Colombia can give me. So I was like, I'm gonna work part-time as well. And because I wanted to transition to fintech, I decided to work for a tech startup that does payments in Africa. That's very specific, very niche, relevant to what I was doing. So through the second year, I worked 15 hours a week. I found out about the opportunity from the FinTech and Blockchain Club because this is where it was posted. And in fact, the girl that was doing the role before me, she was also a Columbia student. So I could actually, get a first hand account of, was the company good? Was the work interesting? And all of that. And I decided to do that for my second year.
So helpful. Thank you. And it's so nice for that Columbia connection. I feel like that's something that the alumni continue to do, is kind of that pay it forward mentality, which is something, again, I very much appreciate about the school. All right. So I'm going to go back to doing I'll call it semi-screen sharing, since again, it's not the full presentation here. But so I think, again, we've talked about a little bit about kind of the school year internships, the fact that there are so many internship opportunities that the students can take advantage of. One thing I do want to mention kind of in this context is that, I think sometimes students wonder, oh, well, when really would I be able to start pursuing that school year internship if that's something that I wanted to do? And we very much encourage people not to look at that until certainly I think third or fourth term of study. And you may wonder why. And I think part of that has to do with, we want the students invested in the community. We want you invested in your learning team within your cluster, and kind of getting back to that feeling of being a student. And so we don't want that school year internship to preclude any of the relationships that you will be building with your classmates. So generally speaking, students will wait until their third or fourth semester of study to look at a school year internship. The Career Management Center has this amazing model, which is called the ACE model. So there is advising, so A for advising, C for coaching, so both peer coaching as well as alumni coaching that the students will have access to, and E in this ACE model is for the executives in residence. So basically, before you even come to Columbia over the summer, after you've been admitted, you will end up having a one-on-one advising session that is prepared for you with a specific advisor that you will have in the Career Management Center. So that individual will work with you to kind of get you up to speed and prepared for where you should be in order to best hit the ground running when you are at Columbia. So what does this mean? So you will have any variety of workshops that you will need to actually undertake before pursuing any interviews for internships or certainly full-time positions. So resume review workshops, interview skill workshops, and again, any presentation skill workshops, so that way you'll get real-time feedback on your presentation skills. So you will have all of these sessions by working with advisors. And again, that's something that's really helpful because we want you to be best prepared as possible in order to take advantage of all of the different opportunities that will be available to you through Columbia. So coaching, we have second year peer coaching, so career fellows that are paid opportunities for our second year students to help coach, guide, and advise the first year students on being, again, best prepared for those internship interviews. And likewise, there is an alumni coaching program where you will have access to more than 150 career coaches who are alums from the program, and again, have had these experiences that you will. And these folks, again, are industry specific, and they will work to help you on best practices as you are preparing for your interviews. And then we have something called the Executives in Residence program. I'm going to go back to that part in the beginning when I said New York really permeates a whole lot of your experience at Columbia Business School. Well, I think the Executives in Residence is an amazing opportunity, again, to hear from seasoned professionals who have reached really kind of the top levels, the C-suite of in their careers. And so we have folks who have come from so many different industries. And what you can do is set aside 15, 20 minutes. You can do it every other week. You can do it once a month to talk to the former chairman and CEO of Wyeth Pharmaceuticals, if you want to look at the healthcare industry, or Mr. Humaner, who was the president of Philip Morris, if you're looking at working in kind of consumer products. Again, there are plenty of people from finance as well as media and entertainment entrepreneurs. So these executives in residence are either friends of the school, alumni, members of our board of overseers, and they are just such incredible resources where you have this opportunity to meet one-on-one with them, again, virtually this past year or in person starting next year, to have specific feedback. And what's amazing, I think, about the executives in residence is that they're also really candid and direct. And so if you are looking at something that perhaps may be a big switch, they will give you very direct and candid advice about either how to make that switch or what some of the baby steps are that you could take in the interim in order to help you to kind of achieve what it is that you're aspiring to achieve. Anna, did you meet at all with the executives in residence while you were in school, or no? Because I feel like a lot of times people actually don't take advantage of that as much as they could or should.
Yeah, I mean, one of the first things that our peer advisors told us, the second year class when we were, just starting at orientation, was that executives in residence is one of the biggest Columbia assets, and it is heavily underutilized. And I was thinking, now that you presented, that I've met with them. I've met with two of them a couple of times, but I could have definitely done more. And the reason I didn't is because everything you mentioned before, like the coaching from second year students, from the CMC staff members, from professionals in the field, this is already like so much that it didn't give me much time to do more, like, networking with the most senior people that they are in the executives of residence program.
Okay, thank you. All right, we have 10 minutes left, so I am going to turn quickly to the admissions portion before we break into a quick Q&A. So high level, what are we looking for as part of the admissions committee? There are 3 different areas of an application at which we are looking. So in no particular order: academics, personal characteristics, and something called professional promise. Under academics, we're looking to make sure that you can do the work when you come to Columbia. It is a very rigorous, robust program. And so we're going to look at your undergraduate record. Where did you go to school? What did you study? What were the rigors of the classes you took? And obviously, how did you do? We do require a standardized test at Columbia. However, you have 3 options. You can take the GMAT, the executive assessment, which is also put out by the folks who do the GMAT test, or the GRE. Any of them are acceptable. I would definitely encourage you to think about where you think that you can shine in terms of a standardized test when selecting which test you want to take. Personal characteristics for this, as you can see from, I think, understand and recognize from what Anna shared, there is so much to do at Columbia, and we're looking for people who are going to be as actively engaged outside of the classroom as they are inside of the classroom. And so for this personal characteristics section, I think we're really going to look at what have you done in the past that gives us the idea or the understanding and comfort that you are going to be a leader on campus. And it doesn't necessarily mean being a leader doesn't mean taking on the specific leadership role, but we want to ensure that you're a leader in helping to engage your classmates. You're a leader in terms of working with the different clubs and conferences, and really, again, being actively engaged, because we want your classmates to know your name. We want your classmates to be impacted by you, and likewise your classmates to impact your experience. So we don't want people who are just going to sit back and kind of take instead of also give and contribute. So we're going to look at, what did you do during undergrad? What are your activities in which you like to participate now, especially during times of COVID? I feel like people may be concerned, I didn't have the opportunity to do something, but trust me, I'm sure you contributed in some meaningful way, whether it's to your community, to your work, to your family. Do not be shy about talking about how you spent your time during COVID, especially if there's nothing formal that you did. I'm sure you probably may underestimate what you do a little bit more than we would, and we'll look and probably be very impressed by meaningful ways that you contributed, again, to whatever community that is over the past year. And the third area is something called professional promise. So this is graduate management education. So we are certainly looking at what your work experience has been. What is it that you aspire to do? How will Columbia Business School help you to achieve your goals? So we're going to look at this through the essays and also through the interview. Interviews are by invitation only. They will be with likely an alum in your local area. Again, hopefully as things open up, and we know it's a little different in different places of the world. But the interview really nothing should come as a surprise in the interview. You can think about what you would want to ask if you were interviewing somebody for a job, or if you were an alum from a program. Why do you want to get an MBA? Why does the school seem like it's a good fit for you? How are you going to contribute? So, none of this interview should really be anything that should surprise you. So generally you send a resume to your interviewer in advance, and then the interviewer will not know anything about you other than what you are telling that interviewer. So send a resume so there'll be some good talking points. Just quickly, we have, different types of financial aid at Columbia. We have merit-based fellowships, need-based scholarships, and obviously students can also try to secure loans in order to kind of work toward that tuition. A lot of this information is on our website, so I would encourage you to take a look at that. And the other thing that I want to mention is just that we have rolling admissions at Columbia, meaning that we read the applications in the order in which they are submitted. So it always benefits you to get your application in well before a stated deadline. So you can see the deadlines up here for our January 2022 intake. October will be the deadline. Same thing for early decision. Early decision is binding, meaning that you sign an honor pledge saying, I pledge my honor if I'm admitted to Columbia. I'll withdraw the other applications that I may have submitted, and send a deposit within 2 weeks of being accepted. If you want to be considered as part of that priority group for merit fellowships, our deadline is in January of 2022, and our final deadline for the August 2022 intake at this time is April 18th, 2022. Again, it always benefits people to apply well before a stated deadline in order to kind of maximize your chances of being admitted into the program. So, with all of that in mind, we also have our essay questions that are up online. I think the one big part of our application that may be a little bit different this year is we are only asking for one letter of recommendation. So we know that that's a real hurdle for people to get different recommendations from supervisors, former supervisors, etc. But again, teammates. So we are only asking for one letter of recommendation this year. So I think that's probably the biggest change, aside from an addition of one other application essay. So we have one essay, which is always the traditional, why do you want to get an MBA? And then for the second and third essay that you will need to write, we give you an option of 3. You have to choose 2 among the 3 essay number 2 options. So I think that's a lot. And we have a few minutes left for questions. So Vaibhav, help us, please.
Thank you so much for that, Amanda and Anna. And that was a very detailed and informative presentation, right? And, I could get the general mood of the chat. And I think the questions that we have got in chat are, around 3 major things. And if you can talk about these things, I think that's going to answer the most questions on chat, right? If you can talk about career transitioning, first of all, how does a potential applicant demonstrate required experience? For example, if they're trying to pivot from tech to private equity or venture capital. The second question is around test scores. What is a good test score? What kind of tests do you accept, etc. And the third question is around what sort of a work experience in terms of quality and quantity are you looking at? What about applicants who have less work experience in terms of the number of years, and what about applicants who probably have 10 plus years in just the terms of the number of years of work experience? If you can talk about that. I think I covered the entire mood of the chat.
Okay, so what I can tell you, so the first question is about pivoting careers. I think the most important part is we want people to be realistic in terms of their expectations about what the school can provide. I think that is really the first most important piece to really think about. So if I'm going to use myself as an example, like I'm going to make up an example. If I work in the admissions side and I said, you know what, actually, I'd like to go to private equity, I think that somebody on the admissions side may say, wow, well, do you have any financial services experiences? Do you have a banking background? Have you, what are your quantitative skills like? What are your actually presentation skills like? So there may be some things that I could lend again to that type of a career transition, but I think that there would be some real gaps and concerns about my ability to make that type of a transition depending on the role within private equity. So I think, again, talking to students, talking to alums, getting a good sense of what the recruiters are going to be looking for would be something that would be helpful. And Anna, I don't know whether or not you want to chime in at all about that.
Yeah, very quickly, because we are short on time. And again, this is personal experience and advice, not necessarily, school's opinion. But the way I see it, transitions they fall in 3 categories, right? Location, function, and industry. Changing all of the 3 at the same time sounds a bit hard to me. what I would advise everybody applying is think how realistic what you're putting on paper is, because at the end of the day, the school is providing a service. And if they think that they cannot provide that service to you, nobody wants, to make you commit 2 years of your life and pay for something that they cannot deliver. So think about how realistic what you want to do is before you, try to sell it to somebody else. In this case, being the admission committee, and 1 year down the road, being the HR from the various companies.
Yep, I think that's great, especially the 2 out of 3, as I think a great rule of thumb. Okay, second question had to do with test scores. Middle 80% range of our test scores are all on the admissions part of the website. So, but again, we are agnostic in terms of the GMAT, the GRE, or the executive assessment. Wherever you think you can shine, that's what we want you to do. And then third is the work experience. Again, that class profile is up and on the admissions part of the website, and I think the average amount of work experience is 5 years. I've been in the admissions office for almost 20 years. It is coming up on 20 years this year. And I don't think we could move that number off of 5 if we tried. I think that really more has to do with what the applicant pool generally looks like. And so I think, though, the important part to keep in mind for applicants is, when is the timing right for you specifically? Again, whether you're going into a family business or whether you're looking, again, to make some type of a big career switch or you want to be an entrepreneur, I think that, Henderson, it's location. That's the location, function, and industry. I see the question in there. I think that, the timing is really right when it's right for you. And that's where you need to do that kind of soul searching during the application process and talk to friends and family. And also, again, students who are going through the program. We have a group called the Hermes Society, and they are the student volunteers, who volunteer to talk to prospective students on behalf, certainly, of the Columbia community. So those, I think that catches all 3.
Awesome, awesome. Sounds great. And I think we have already overshot the time by 1 minute. So we'd be winding up the presentation now. Thank you so much, Amanda and Anna, for joining us today and sharing your insights around the Columbia Business School. And a huge shout out to our chat moderators as well, who have been working behind the scenes to moderate the entire YouTube and Facebook chat. And thanks everybody for dialing in today. Hope you had a great session. And we have many more sessions lined up for you later. And the next session is for University of Michigan's Ross School of Business. So hope to see you all there. Take care, stay safe.
Thank you. Healthy and well.
Thank you, guys.
Absolutely.
Bye.